Where did his money come from? We will never know, right? So forget about Donald Trump. What about all the other politicians, right? I always say, like, if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, know every single politician is got to answer to somebody. They're in somebody's pocket. They're like, well, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm like, well, no, I'm not talking about conspiracies. Look who's funded for their campaign. I'm not going to give you $100 million if you're going to do the exact opposite of what I want you to do.
Welcome back, everybody, to the DC Talks podcast with David Chinelli. We're back in the building. It's been a while since we recorded, but we're here for a brand new episode. Mr. DC, how you doing?
We were talking off air, a little under the weather, but it's like, hey, we need to do this, right? We need to get that out to our audience. Lots of things to talk about. Lots of good things
to talk about on our docket for today. If you've been living under a rock, you must know that Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was assassinated. By the time we're recording this has been
3 weeks, probably.
It's been a week, I believe.
Well, it was last week for us. By the time it airs, it'll be a week from now, 4 days. So probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Like exactly. Yeah. So this is the first time I'm having a chance to talk with DC. You know, this is someone who was a big proponent of the conservatives in the U.S. and getting Donald Trump elected. He was a massive voice for the youth in the U.S. in terms of promoting the idea of marriage, family, and also traditional values. And at the end of the day, conservative values. And you know that he got assassinated while having one of his popular debates that he currently does at different campuses across America. And he was shot in the neck by an assassin. And I wanted to open up this conversation with DC just because we have similar values and we know this really hit us in a way that we did not expect it to hit us. And I want to hear his thoughts and as well share my thoughts and just have a discussion what we think is happening in society, what this means moving forward, and what does this mean for debate and having these conversations out with people who have different ideas from you. So, DC, first question for you is, what was your visceral reaction when you heard the news of this happening?
I went numb. All of a sudden, one of my friends or like somebody we talked to on Instagram, if you don't know, if you DM me, I do answer back a lot, and because of my Christian stance, like more of my political view stance, you get to be like-minded with some people. We share things, and even if you haven't met them, and just kind of converse a lot, and that happens. And she messaged, she goes, see what happened to Charlie Kirk? And I was like, no, what happened? And all of a sudden I went and I saw the video, and I saw the video of him getting shot, and I was like, I just went numb. I didn't know what to, like, I'm feeling right now. I was like, I didn't know. And then I was like, okay, well, like, I didn't even know if I had a chance to even pray for him for his safety before I found out he actually passed. And I was just like in shock. And if you haven't watched our program before, I used to quote Charlie Kirk all the time. There's a couple of things that, after his death that you find out a bunch of, things about other people, but just because you're in alignment a lot of what somebody says doesn't mean you agree with everything they say. And I don't understand where society's at that way. Like when President Trump was up for election, I thought he was a better candidate, and I still believe he's a better candidate than Kamala Harris. I just do. Oh, Joe Biden was not even a president. You saw what happened with him. The last few years, he wasn't even signing his own executive orders, right? Like, so Biden's a different story. But like when people are attacking me, like, well, like, how can you like Trump and stuff too? And I'm like, I keep saying, I don't think he's a good man. I don't care. Even my friends in the States, I don't think he's a good man. I don't think he's a moral person. But I thought and I still do think he's better for the economy in the States than Kamala Harris ever been. I don't agree with Kamala Harris's stance on abortion. I don't agree with her stance on the LGBTQ community. I don't agree with where they were leading down with men in women's bathrooms, and it was just one over one after. I just didn't agree with him. Now, as a person, I didn't like. I don't always like Trump, but when he talks, I sometimes laugh, and I can see why people parody him, right? So with Charlie Kirk, when he died, they're like, well, he supported Trump. Like, you must be a Trump lover and all this, and they were like accusing me of stuff just because I liked Charlie Kirk's.
So this just happened.
Fundamental.
People were coming at you for
always. Well, people come at me for a number of things, especially like I have friends of mine that are very liberal. And they support the liberal government, which blows my mind. And they support everything you can imagine between vaccines and, where we are in with schools and, mental health and all that. Like, there were just a lot of things were just not aligned. So of course, when Charlie Kirk died, they're like, how can you support him? He was a racist. He was this. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. And it was like, you didn't. And I remember one of my friends, he had sent me a snapshot of some of the things that Charlie Kirk had said. And I remember watching all of those debates when he said that. I'm like, you're taking a snippet way out of context, right? When he was talking about, remember the basketball player, Gardner, what's her name? Brittany Gardner?
Yeah, Brittany.
And Griner. Sorry. Again, shows you how much I know about WNBA. Remember when she was like caught? First of all, she got caught doing something illegal. She had weed. She was in Russia. Got detained. She deserved to be in jail, right? But yet, like, the left made a big thing about her coming back home and stuff. And Charlie was like, I don't understand this. Like, you don't support your own veteran. Yet, but because she fulfills your categories, because she's black and she's a lesbian and all this other too, the left went nuts to get her home. And that was just cool. But he just took the part where it just explained how her race. And it's like, and you're taking her over a veteran. I'm like, you don't understand what he was trying to say, right? And that was taken out of context, right? And then how he doesn't believe in DEI. And one thing my friend said too, he's like, well, you can't prove that DEI is actually a thing. I was like, well, and I Googled, ChatGPT, and it said, well, it's not actually in some of the mandates, for schools and stuff too, but it has precedent, but you can't prove it. I'm like, okay, you might be right about that. But Charlie was always pushing, like, and we've talked about this before, like, why, when you're walking into a plane and stuff and you see a black pilot, and you and I talked about this in one of our episodes, well, you don't want a DEI because, like, you're a smart guy. Imagine you're flying a plane. I don't want to be sitting back like, well, I hope, you didn't get the job just because of the color of your skin. And he was making that point. And then but they took only that part. I'm like, when he said, he goes, when I see a black man pilot walking into a plane, I hope he's qualified. And I was like, he wasn't saying it because of race. He's like, if you miss the whole part of it, is like, but the other thing is when you talk to my black friends, and I talking to you as well, and it's like, you don't want that connotation behind you. Right. So it's like, so most black people don't want to have, and they talked about the Bill of Rights, how, the problem with the Bill of Rights was, it was supposed to be for, not the Bill of Rights, with the racism there, civil rights, the Civil Rights Act. And he said about the Civil Rights Act, it should just be for race. And he's like, so I think it just needs to be a one-pager about race. But problem is they were using that in the States to have males compete in female sports. They were twisting it, right? The Civil Rights Act. So again, he was in that snippet, every single point that, my friend had made, I'm like, totally took it out of context. And then obviously you see people that were cheering for his death, which made me sick to my stomach.
I could not believe it, DC. I could not.
I can.
You can't?
I can.
You can
I think our world is really demonic and messed up. And I don't understand why they got all mad when they got fired for making those comments. It talks about a despicable human being you are, right? At the end of the day, the man was murdered for words that he said because they weren't in alignment with what another person thought. Words. He wasn't telling people to go riot. He wasn't telling people to go kill anybody. He wasn't enticing a nation to pull out guns and start shooting people. He was telling you, believe in God, believe in Jesus Christ, how it saved his life, and trying to make things equal for everybody. And because of those words, he got shot, and you're cheering that. So you wonder why, like, if he can die for words he said, you can lose your job for things you said.
And it's scary too, like what this means moving forward, because now having the discourse out in public for other people too, like, not forget Charlie Kirk, even just for regular civilians now, it might not result in death, but it could be you wearing and this is also for the left. I think they don't even notice that as well, because if you think the right is going to let this go, let's say on the both political spectrums, this is going to start a lot more physical, violent acts amongst people. And we're not going to have any sort of like public decorum. And
well, here's an issue, and everyone's saying, and my friend too is saying, like, everyone's now talking about the left and the right and all this other shit too. And I'm like, stop. We have to stop. I'm saying right now, we have to have the stop of the left and the right and all this bullshit. All it's doing is dividing us. We should have right and wrong. That's it. Stop fucking talking about the left and the right and well, the right believes. And because I'm a little more conservative, I don't believe with all conservative views. I am a normal person. I'm like, there is right and wrong. Right? Like to talk about back to Donald Trump. I think Bill Gates is the devil. And I think if you see any of my, I think what he's trying to do, he's mentioned how he wants to depopulate the world with vaccines. And he's literally said that.
He's buying all the farmland and everything
right.
like that.
He's buying on farmland. His new upheal is actually causing cancer. Like there's all these studies that saying too, it's not good for you. He found a loophole to make sure that he was able to like put it on organic food. And now studies are coming out that it's making people sick and kill them. He's the devil. And the more people realize that he's got nefarious, goals behind him and ideas, they're like, it pisses me off, right? How do you have, but here's the thing I didn't like about Trump as well when it comes back to like supporting is that you can't have RFK, who's trying to get rid of all these vaccines and all this other stuff too, which you think on the surface is a good idea if he's trying to remove like aluminum and all these other stuff from the vaccines. And then have Bill Gates come in afterwards who's trying to add all this shit into your diet and kill you. Like to me, it's a disconnect, right? With Charlie, there was never just a disconnect. He knew where his God was. He knew where he lied. There was no question about it. And the other thing is, what I liked about Charlie as well is that he was trying, even though he was a huge faith believer in Jesus Christ, and we should all be, I think we all should follow Christ. I think the world would be a lot better place. And he never backed that down. And I love that about him. But when he was going into debate with people, he would put aside his Christianity. But you see how brilliant the man was, how many books he read, because there was not a topic he wouldn't talk about that he didn't know something about. And for example, his abortion stance, which I believe in 100%, he used it, he used the science behind it. And when people use their own, use the science against him, when he's using the science and there was no rebuttal, it pissed off a lot of people because they just want to believe in their side. And then even if you give them facts, which you tell people to do facts, if they wholeheartedly don't want to believe in a topic, their only response is anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you seen, Candace Owens has actually been digging deeper into this. So,
she believes that Netanyahu.
You seen those clips and
Yep.
everything? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Wouldn't surprise me. So I sent you a clip before, so I was in the middle of a workout and this popped in and I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw it. And this one guy's like, and he talked about like how much it doesn't make sense how the shooter was able to kill this person. And I said this in the beginning.
200 yards away.
Well, apparently his grandmother said he's never shot a gun in his life. Then they get this brand new rifle, which has never been shot. And if you've never done target practice, and I was talking to Rocco about this, Rocco, and he was saying, because I posted something how this doesn't make sense. And he's like, you can kill somebody from 200 yards out. You don't have to be a precision shooter. And I talked to my cousin. He's like, yeah, if you're practicing, well, apparently this guy didn't practice and be able to do one shot and hit him in the neck, even if he wasn't aiming at the neck, and then being able to disassemble the gun and that time go change clothes and do a tweet, the timeline didn't make sense. So I think a lot of the Charlie Kirk killing was, there's an inside job. There was some sort of political power. We don't know what it is. If it's true about Trump, because I don't believe any candidate, I don't believe any politician is squeaky clean. I think they're all in somebody's pocket. It's one of the reasons why the Epstein files didn't come out. And I'm saying this because my buddy's like, well, you don't talk about the Epstein files. I'm like, well, the reason why the Epstein files didn't come out is because it's used as blackmail. It's currency. So you can't publicize everybody's name. But now you can blackmail politicians like, hey, unless you do what I'm telling you to do, I'm going to post you having intercourse with adolescents outside of my, and you'll be ruined. If they just publish everybody's name, everyone's going to be like, okay,
everything's going to fall apart.
Exactly. Everything's going to fall apart. They're using it. So could Israel, the Israelis have an effect on Trump and have this all happen? Yeah. I believe that could have happened. So did they use a patsy? Or what are they doing? Like, why was it a transgender person that they picked on, or somebody that is sympathetic to the transgender movement? And I said it from the beginning. I'm like, this package doesn't make sense. It fits in too perfectly to the narrative to get the left against the right. And again, we should stop going the left versus the right. We need to have real stories. We need to figure out good versus evil, real versus fake. And somebody who doesn't believe in that the U.S. government would kill their own people obviously has no idea of all their past history. Go into any conspiracy website and you'll see. And you don't even have to, some of the files have been released, like, Pearl Harbor was an inside job that to entice.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Like,
wow.
It was not an inside job, but there was apparently there was a bombing, and like all the conspiracy, the government came out and said, yeah, like we started the war against Japan. There was they lied about bombs, about some ships getting bombed. I don't know the whole story because I didn't get into too much of Pearl Harbor, but yeah, and they've released it saying, yeah, it's well known now, or people don't realize that the U.S. government started that by bombing their own, or getting rid of their own people. And then we talked about 9/11, trying to get things, the government, or assassinations like. JFK, apparently the CIA was one of the ones that assassinated because he wouldn't do a false flag. If you don't know what a false flag is, you want to explain what a false flag narrative is? Well, basically, if they're trying to push a bill and the people aren't basically for it, what they'll do is they'll have like a terrorist attack, or they'll do some sort of like, for example, I want to ban guns in schools. Well, I'm like, oh no, we can't do that. People need their guns. They'll pay somebody to have a shooter, and they'll kill their own people, and they'll shoot it, and it'll be like a tragedy. Saying like, see, we need to. They'll pay somebody to do it, right? And like, there's some people thought Columbine was a false flag. There was actually a third CIA person in there shooting. Like, I don't know if I believe all that, but JFK, he had an opportunity to do a false flag, and Americans were to have to kill. I don't know the specifics about it. My old teacher in high school knew all this stuff, and he was telling us conspiracies back then, Mr. Narducci, who's passed away now. But the reason why JFK was assassinated was one of those reasons, was that they were saying, he knew too many secrets. Well, that too, but he wouldn't do these false flags. And they were supposed to kill a certain amount of Americans in order to push a bill forward, and it didn't happen. He was killed, and then his vice president, who became president afterwards, I think it was Ford, afterwards, or... Again, I'm not American, so forgive me if I get those wrong. He passed the bill, all right? So anyway, he passed something happened. That's a false flag. A false flag is pretending it to be something in order to push a bill and having some sort of catastrophe.
Yeah. Even Candace Owens, when I was watching her 2 live streams, I actually watched them fully. The idea that she was pushing was that the Benjamin Netanyahu baby and Bill Ackman, Bill Ackman, like massive hedge fund guy in New York, they were bringing influencers to their Hamptons side of New York, and they wanted to silence Charlie Kirk because he was being a big critic of Israel.
Well, apparently he took some money. Candace said he took money he wasn't happy about, and
I don't think he took the money. I think he rejected.
Rejected
it.
He
rejected the money because I think Bibi was offering him up to $150 million in Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk is like, no, I don't really want to do this, because he started noticing how the Israelis they're pushing this massive genocide, and Charlie wasn't agreeing with it. Because he's just like,
because his narrative changed the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. He was just like, nah, like, I'm not about this. And that's why Netanyahu was going on all these American podcasts. He's going on Nelk full.
What do you hear about that thing too? Like, all of a sudden when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he was the first politician to come out and say that he was assassinated, even before the president, before we all knew. And that's why some people are saying, they're speculating. I'm like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like how would he know?
Yeah, he goes on the news, brings up this letter that he wrote to Charlie Kirk, and there's one thing I learned is that when people give you more details than they should be giving you more details to, is that they're hiding a lie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that concept,
yeah.
But when you ask someone something and they just voluntarily give you more information than they should be giving you, they're like, what are you hiding, bro? I just asked you a question. Why are you?
Well, you always know a guilty person, and they keep going on and on. And you're like, And if you ever think somebody's gonna lie, shut up and let them talk.
Let them talk.
And they'll just start digging and digging
all the time. And that's why even Candace, too, when she did her live, Bill Ackman was at this whole influencer retreat in the Hamptons. Yeah. They were trying to silence Charlie Kirk because Charlie, he's like he's a trailblazer. And they knew, like, if we have this guy on our side, then we can get the youth to criticize Israel and everything.
Well, none of that. I think the problem, like, and some people even, I've heard this before, that the Republicans took out Charlie. And I was like, well, why would the people take out their own people? For 2 reasons. One, you can use them as a martyr to get more people on your side. If you see how many people have turned back to Christ, and now they're going to read the Bible, going back to church, which is amazing, right? Like, I think it's sad, and the movement's there, but it's reinforcing, their side, the Republican side, right? But I think the other problem is because I don't think Charlie could have been bought. He's not. Trump, we know, is going to be bought. I'm sorry, if you don't understand politics, they're puppets, all of them. And if you don't understand that, and I've said this before, and like, look who's paid for their campaigns. Look how and don't tell me Donald Trump, who screwed over many, many people throughout his whole career, he's not in the pocket of somebody. He's not that rich compared to the rest of the world, right?
He moves rich. He acts rich. Like,
But how many times has he been bankrupt, right? So think about it.
7 times.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
how much money, and where did his money come from? We will never know, right? So forget about Donald Trump. What about all the other politicians, right? I always say, if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, know every single politician is got to answer to somebody. They're in somebody's pocket. They're like, well, that's a conspiracy there. I'm like, well, no, I'm not talking about conspiracies. Look who's funded for their campaign. I'm not going to give you $100 million if you're going to do the exact opposite of what I want you to do, right? So, when you're going to be the prime minister, I'm going to give you $50 million. But when it comes to real estate, I want to be able to do this, this, and this. So it gives me an advantage. That's life. That's not conspiracy. And they tell you who's sponsoring them. So if you want to do yourself a favor, want to know whose pocket these politicians are in, find out who funded their campaign. So, and then somebody, if you're trying to tell me Donald Trump funded his own campaign, come on. Guys, there's some dirty money there. So my point is that, yeah, it could be possible that even his own side could have assassinated him, because he's only 31 years old. Look at the momentum the guy got at 31 years old.
He was like Malcolm
He's
X.
16 years younger than me. And I feel like everything he was saying, I was sitting on every word. I felt like he was almost like I'm learning something from like a sage. Somebody's been around for 100 years.
Big brother too.
Like a big brother.
Yeah, me too.
And that being said, when he was assassinated, and anybody who doesn't believe he's assassinated they're out to lunch. But when he was assassinated, I had a friend of mine from England. He goes, "We're feeling it over here, mate." He goes, "We're across the sea, and it's hurting over here."
Yeah, there was massive vigils everywhere, even England, all across the world. People, I don't know what it was, but that day when I heard the news, DC, I couldn't even. My whole day just shifted. I could not, and there was like a certain feeling in the air, because it's like everything changed. It felt like a 9/11 type of thing. Like it's like losing someone. Like a Michael Jackson. I was really.
I wouldn't give Charlie Kirk and Michael Jackson the same. But I know the amount of people that he touched.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to do.
And I'm not 100% convinced that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. I know, I'm just throwing out there. I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm not sure. I'm throwing it out there. But I'm saying, it's different when somebody like him dies, right? There's there's a black eye on his resume, basically, you'd say, right? Charlie Kirk's black eyes, quote unquote, are taken out of context. When you actually look at them, he wasn't really a black guy. Like, I've heard people say he's a misogynist. How? He was a misogynist because you know what he said? He goes, I think most women would love, instead of going to a 9 to 5, having a child, instead of bringing him to a daycare, most women would love to watch and nourish their child and take care of the home. And instead of going to a business to crunch and work on a spreadsheet all day. I would say, but yeah, I remember, I would say my mom was the same way. I'm pretty sure my wife's very successful, and does what she's great. When the kids were old enough, she wanted to go to work. He wasn't telling them not to go to work, right? That's what misogynist is. Wait a minute.
He didn't say option.
Right. He never said women should never work. And he said, and unfortunately in this democracy that we have in this environment, both have to go to work. He said, is it not right? He goes, I just wish, I think most people would enjoy staying at home. And I don't find that misogynist. He was just saying the way it was. Now, back in the 1950s, it wasn't as rosy as everybody might picture. There's a lot of, domestic abuse and stuff happening. Let's not look at it through rosy colored glasses either, right? But I understand where he's coming from. If I was able to, if my wife wanted to stay home and I can take care of her, and I was single income earner that way, and it was fine, I think sometimes wives would have been okay with that, right? And then when the kids are at school, then you go back to join the workforce. I think that's great. I was talking with Lori too, and she was saying one of the reasons she likes being a realtor is that she can watch her daughter grow, and work at the same time. That's ideal, right? When Natalie had her second, Matea, or Minnie, she was a photographer. We got to spend a lot of time. Sure, we had to put them in daycare because both of us were at that point, we're entrepreneurs a couple of days. But most of the time, we got to spend a lot of time, drop off our kids, pick up our kids. It was huge, right? That's one thing I loved about being a realtor. I could drop my kids off and pick them up every day, right?
And you're never going to get those days back.
No. Somebody said by the time your kids are 12 years old, you've already spent 80% of the time or something with your kids.
For their in their lifetime.
In their lifetime.
Because by the time they're 16, 18, they're off to college.
Well, think about it. As they become teenagers, they're out of the house more often. And then, like, if your kids go to, like I said, my brother left for Waterloo at 19. All right. And he's never been back. He's going to be 50 next year.
He's been in Waterloo ever since
He was 19.
Guy's family, everything.
He's got a family, 2 kids, married, 2 kids and stuff like, and literally I see him twice a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, right? And my brother and I were like this, right? So it's, I get it. Like I turned to Natalie and I'm like, look at this stat. And she's like, holy shit. It's like, and both of our kids are 13 and 15. But anyway, now we're digressing. We're just talking, but my point was, he was saying that, like, so I don't get that. I've sent clips to my friends and like, they're saying he was a racist. And I'm like, he's telling how beautiful like black babies were and stuff like that. One with the mom, she's like, he goes, calling the child a gift from God. Somebody, and then he set up like other funds for people to come. This one gentleman, he paid for his trips. Like I gave him like a scholarship because he wanted to help him come to a tour and talk with him on the tour. Candace Owens been on his tour as a pillar of his tour. If you are a racist, why would you
spend time and invest all your time and energy doing that?
And
it
money
doesn't make sense.
And in people other than your own race. But because he didn't agree with DEI and he didn't agree that there was a white privilege, because again, we talked about on the show, and that's the idea that we had on the show, which unfortunately had to be taken down. But we talked about how white privilege to him didn't matter. And it's like, well, and the idea was, and I liked this, and that's what we were using his dialogue, that whole episode. And his thing was saying, and I said it to you at the time, I said, Owen, as a white man, which I'm not technically white according to the KKK, but as a white man, what can I do? And I'm not talking about like getting pulled over by cops. I'm saying, what are opportunities that I get afforded that you don't by the color of my skin? And is that, and actually the opposite with DEI, I can be highly more skilled than you, but I get passed over because of you. So because of the color of your skin with DEI regulations. So in fact, black people are having more advantage. It's actually racist towards white. So he's just like, we should all be equal, the right person for the right job. And then he also talked about like DEI doesn't talk about like, or racism doesn't talk about the Asian culture, how they were low and they built themselves up and how like they're all CEOs and like they're actually one of the highest flourishing nations or race in the US. But nobody's talking about yellow privilege or Asian privilege or whatever. I don't like using those colors, but you know what I mean? But they talk about white privilege, and I was like, yeah, like the whites are actually in the minority now. So anyway, I don't get people's rhetoric about that too when I show them the snippets. But again, when they took the racist stuff, they take that. And then with his stance on abortion, well, he's Christian. Of course he's going to have that stance. So you're asking before, what are we worried about? Well, I think a lot of people, like some people are now wondering, like, do I go and do I talk in front of people, especially somebody like myself, right? Like I piss off white people. I know. It's fine. It is what it is. But I tell people in the beginning, like, listen, I didn't ever thought I would be a conservative. I thought it was just a normal people. Like I believe in, like conservative values, right? Which, would have been like, I believe that the household, I think the fathers should be like, agree with Charlie Kirk that we need fathers in households. I think that the family needs to stay together. I don't love divorce. I don't love, I'm against abortion. I'm against, certain things. I'm against men competing in women's sports. I just think that's logical, right? I think so some of those values. So if I go on and I say that publicly, am I now a target for getting shot? I'm Christian. I'm not Muslim. Am I going to get shot? For things I say that I say Christ is king. Christ is king. You can't get to heaven without God. Sorry, without Jesus. Will I get shot for that? So I don't worry. But the good thing is, there's a new movement called I Am Charlie Kirk, and people started saying that. I like the fact that people are doing the opposite. They're not bowing down to that. They're not going to be scared. But the one thing I find is funny is. What's his name? It's Shapiro. Shapiro wants to take over the movement for Charlie Kirk. And if you don't know who Ben Shapiro is, he's also outspoken and very intelligent, but he's Jewish. So one of the conspiracy theories, like, isn't it funny that you're taking a right-wing Christian, you're martyring him, and then Ben wants to continue his tour. So now you're replacing him with the Jewish person. So that's also leading into the conspiracy theory about, Bill Ackman, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, I'm like, and again, there's all these kind of things rolling around. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. I don't know.
I like with the, you mentioned that you were not surprised with how people reacted, right? And
I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Did you see people that you personally know react in a way that was, I found myself like unfollowing people, removing them as followers because I was like, how?
Well, I put it out there, Owen, before anybody said anything. I'm like, and I said on my Facebook, if you are happy about any of the events today, unfollow me right now. Just do it. Just do it. I've already pissed off enough people that they've already started unfollowing me for certain things I've said. So I don't think it's a surprise when it came to Charlie Kirk. So I didn't see anybody I knew personally post. I saw the opposite. People saying exactly the same thing and then posting like, look at this POS, what he's done. Or, it was unbelievable. But some of the politicians and things like even the Rock's daughter and they like, oh, if you're going to say mean things, don't expect people to say nice things about you when you're dead. And I'm like, what? A man died. A man died. At the end of the day, you may not have agreed with what he had to say, but he died for things he said. He's still a father. He's still a husband. He's still a child of God, and he was against murder, and you're murdering him. One of the saddest stories I think I read, and sorry guys, if we're not full of energy today, it's a sad topic, right? It's like it's affected us. I don't know if you're sensing this from us too. Like usually we're full of energy, but it's like this one hit hard, and it was like when the daughter heard the shot and she wanted to run to her dad because she was scared of the noise. I think about like that. If that doesn't pull at your heartstring, that poor child, you're just a soulless human being. I don't understand how you could be cheering when your own kids watch you die. Like, if you've never lost a parent and seen when they died, like I was glad when I wasn't at the moment when my dad passed away. I got to see him like within an hour or so, and it is something that shapes you and it changes you, and it's not good. It's not good. So if you're cheering that, you're sick. Yeah, like so. But it also doesn't like. But it also, I think, amplified how far we've gone and how people like are deranged. When people want to believe what they want to believe, like they can be anything and stuff too, and they can say like I can be a cat if I want to be. I can be a dog. I can be and they're just. You can see that their derangement is like that. So when something like this happened, you see how really sick our society is. And I keep saying, I hate this world. I don't want Jesus to come soon, like as too soon, because I want to spend time with my family and I love my family. But I think he's coming faster than we expect, because when you see stuff like that, how could he not? And it goes back to what somebody said, if God doesn't wipe out the U.S., North America, or the world at this point, he's got to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. And if you don't understand that biblical reference, please do your research. But Sodom and Gomorrah was the most despicable place on earth, with the sex and the whores and all that, and going against God. And I think right now, and from what the Bible describes, we're there. We're there. And this just displayed, and how many people like displayed that too, and even some pastors.
I saw that too.
Did you see that? And the black pastors?
I saw that.
He was helping your fucking movement, and this is what you're doing. I think I don't get that. There was that one pastor. That guy should be, like, I forget his name, the Wolf pastor, but and they're talking about him, and he's like, so he at one point he was selling weed out of his congregation, and he had an affair. Like, so this is not somebody to look up, and he was like against Charlie Kirk. I'm like, yeah, well, you're already the devil, so everything you say, your congregation would be like, do exactly the opposite of what this guy says.
Yeah, man, it was when I saw his daughters and I heard that story, I was like, put your feelings aside, whatever you think about like the right or conservative, just because you're liberal. But his two young daughters just lost their dad, and you're here posting and stomping on his ground like on a dead man, just passed away, and you're happy. Why are you happy? What do you gain from being happy someone's dead? And like, not even just like being, but like you're publicly posting, like you have the presence of mind to go, and that's how like deranged. I don't get why people would do that. Like, think about it, before, when someone passes away, that's the last thing you're doing. But now people, like, they feel so, this is how deep we've gone. Is like, someone passes away that you don't agree with, and you have the presence of mind to go and broadcast how you feel about someone dying. Someone dying. Think about that. Someone died and you're broadcasting to people how you feel about him
somebody
dying.
who's never murdered anybody, who's never broken the law, who's been free, who's never done anything. Like, so I was talking about Natalie too when we talk about Saddam Hussein. The difference is immense. So Saddam, if you don't know about Saddam Hussein in the past, like one of the reasons, the conspiracy reasons why they need to get him out was because he wouldn't go into the banking system, right? So he was fighting for his people. But that guy was a heinous human being, didn't revere life at all, killed people left and right. They didn't care. Like that guy he was the scum of the earth. And so I understand when the U.S. took him out and they did it in a way, it was like, okay, I get it. I get it. People cheer. I understand that because he was a threat to your country. He was a threat to your livelihood. He was killing people and doing that and loving it. Charlie was the opposite. He was against murder.
Regular guy putting people in, teaching them and showing them like, listen, like we can do better. You can do better. Like we're all the same people. Just because I'm white, you're black doesn't make us different. Like if we have like a belief which is rooted from like the foundation of God, we can have everything we want. It's like, fuck this. Sorry.
I've already swore twice on this podcast. I'm trying to be a Christian like you too, brother. But
these outcomes, like I know you want this outcome, but you should not be able just to get just from the base of how you look and your sexual orientation or anything like that by merit. When did that become something that's so divisive? I don't get it.
But even Charlie wasn't against. So his biblical obviously stance was like he believes that homosexuality was a sin, but he also said it's your choice. Like he never said there's so many gay activists that come out and said like no, like he came over to my house, we sat down, like he wasn't ostracizing us. I remember one point the guy was again like if you saw that one video where he was yelling at him, he's like, how dare you like allow gay marriage? He's like, sir, why do you? Charlie's response was, why do you care so much what somebody does in their bedroom? He goes, well, it's against the Bible. And he's like, God gave you freedom of choice. Like you still love the person for who they are, right? I'm just paraphrasing on that too. He was actually yelling at him. It was like, this is the one, and that's one of the problems with Christianity right now. And right, there's not, people will believe the Bible and the Bible is true, but you also have to have humanity in you too. Like that's, trying to force anything down anybody's throat is like totalitarianism is not the way that it works in this world. You're not going to sway anybody. And I thought Charlie had a really good way. He would get angry, but he had a good way of just being respectful to people and talking to them and listening to them. Even people like this one person had a t-shirt and said, F Charlie Kirk. He's like, well, and his little young girl, and he was laughing. And he's like, well, I'm obviously on your mind more than you're on mine. And it's like, she goes, do you like my t-shirt? He goes, well, yeah, you're obviously thinking of me a lot. I know we have to wrap up soon, but I did want to bring up one point, which I'm surprised we didn't. We're talking about the conspiracy stuff too. What did you think about the book coming out? Did you hear about this on Amazon?
Charlie Kirk's book? I haven't heard. No, what book?
There was a book that came out. So Charlie was assassinated on the 10th of September. There was a book published on Amazon September 9th about the killing of Charlie Kirk. Oh, you don't know about this? Yeah, now it's been wiped from every. Oh my God, Owen. Yeah. So that also, one of the conspiracies, like why? Oh, I didn't send you that? It's been all over. And now Amazon said, well, it was supposed to be a parody or something like that too. And I'm like.
Before he died.
The day before he died. Let's see if I can find it for you. Do you want to fill in the time as I'm doing the search over here?
One of the key things, I want the audience, and I'm curious, is like, where does this rank in terms of public assassinations? We have JFK. If you think about all the presidents, we never got to see them, but Abe Lincoln, JFK's one. Malcolm X is one too, public assassination. But I think in modern times, this is like definitely one that.
So this is one. So one of the things over here, just talking like apparently it was an AI book. They're trying to say it was actually somebody, and then they had generated it. Like it's apparently AI predicted it. That's what they're trying to say, which doesn't make any sense. But it was the day before he was assassinated. Apparent AI generated books centered around the death of Charlie Kirk have been popping up on Amazon hours after the conservative activist assassination. Amazon removed the books on Thursday evening prior to responding to inquiries, the Straight Arrow News. And if you look at the publication dates, they're September 9.
This whole idea about trans guys and girls killing people, I just never bought into it. It's such a perfect.
Guys, at the end of the day, I said there's good and evil. There's bad and good. They're setting you up. And like I was talking to one of my buddies who's we were in Greece together. We realized we both like conspiracies. Try to see if I have him on the show, but I think he does his own podcast, but he gets deep down rabbit holes. And I asked him the same thing. I said, his name's Chris Romano. And I said, hey, Chris, I'm like, because we always talk about conspiracies, especially when we're in Greece and stuff. And we're like, hey, what do you think about this killer? And he's like, I'm giving it 72 hours. And I'm like, right? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, right? I'm like, it fits too perfect. He goes, exactly. When it fits too perfect, there's a narrative behind it. And that's why when we talk, I don't believe anything on the media. I just don't believe it. And it's like when things start to come up, we will never know.
It's just background noise these days.
I don't believe anything on the news anymore. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. We'll continue this topic on the moral side of politics. We have that episode coming up after next week's episode. So we'll continue this because I didn't want to leave it here because I knew this is more, but I wanted to talk more about the evil versus good now. It's not about politics. We'll continue this conversation as a part 2 to Charlie Kirk's. And hope you've enjoyed this conversation. This was just the beginning. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts about this assassination. It definitely hit me hard because I don't know what this means for the future of public discourse, but we'd love to get your thoughts. Of course, comment on DC's clips. I always watch those to see how you people think about our
people.
I didn't mean sorry. I'm sorry, sound like Don Cherry right now.
you people, you're racist. You're racist.
You got me. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed our podcast today, our episode. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Peace out.